Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Crime podcast. This podcast is ran by two ladies who play games, shout profanities, and laugh way too often. Also, this podcast does cover topics of sensitive nature, and as such, listener discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome once again to the Wheel of Crime podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Emily, and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah. Ooh.
It's cabaret.
Yeah.
No. But featuring Jenn and Em, the musical. No.
Yeah, we're gonna sing this entire episode, guys.
Oh, could you imagine? It'd be worse than me trying to do that Australian or Scottish accent or whatever it was I did the other week. Oh, man.
Oh.
Well, my Jen. Oh, my Jen. What have you been up to lately?
Oh, my Em. Nothing, my Em. Truly. Actually, I was just trying to rhyme, but, no, I haven't been doing much other than working, which is not interesting at all. I can feel like I always have something to say, and then as soon as we start recording, I'm like, where am I?
Yeah, empty
What am I
head,
doing
no
here?
thoughts. See,
Yeah, exactly. My head is just empty.
Yeah.
Is where I was going with that.
No. I 100% relate and agree, because for me, today, we hit the record button, and I'm like, damn, I am hungry. We're not quite at barbecue season yet, but soon, because, I don't know, I feel like lately I've just been very uninspired in the kitchen. Normally I have something going on, but lately I've just kind of been craving the, simplicity of a barbecue, you know? There's not really, a lot to do with that. You just kind of put meat and veg on the grill, and the fire gives it a flavor, so you don't need to worry about it being bad, because it's probably going to be good. I don't know. I'm just maybe I'm just bored or something.
I want to be invited over for one of your grill nights, because you always tell me about them. I'm like, wow, that sounds delicious. I would like to eat that right now. Thank you.
Oh, and my husband would love that too, because he literally looks for a reason to grill, to be on the barbecue every day. Last summer, he bought, no word of a lie, 20 different boxes of hamburgers, so we could eat hamburgers every day. Which, to be clear, I did not want to eat hamburgers every day, but he had lofty goals.
He was like, you will be grilling every day.
Not even me. He just wanted to be out there grilling. I just had to eat them, which you think would be an easy job, but hamburgers are kind of huge when you're making them at home.
Yeah, that's true. And I feel like you need some variety in your diet.
I would love to have you over for one of my favorite barbecues though, because I like to do when I get really into it and I'm feeling more creative, meat marinades, and we did a charred salad, basically doing not charcuterie. What am I trying to say? Shish kebabs, but without the sticks. So but because we have a little tosser thing that you can put on the grill. So it was basically having a grilled salad.
Ooh, that sounds awesome.
Oh, it was so good. I'm really excited once we can get back into it. And then we'll have our other place set up soon. So then you can stay the night and it'll be extra fun.
I can't wait. I'm going to come over for a sleepover and a grill night. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. But yeah, so that's kind of where my head's been this last week. Just kind of trying to get ready for the upcoming season. And I feel like we talk about work every week, but that is what we do full time. And besides that, I don't know, just playing my games, trying to read more, not really succeeding. I feel like I keep picking other things over reading books right now, but what else is new?
It is what it is. But I think on that note, we should get right into the wheel of questions, because I got some real good ones for you today. I really dug in the back of my mind for these questions.
Oh, I'm intrigued and frightened all at the same time, so. All right, let's get into it. Number 1.
What are your top baby girl names that you love, but you probably wouldn't actually use for a future potential child if you ever decided to have one.
Oh God, I genuinely
See, I
don't
did a
know.
little bit of like recon before this episode, and I
Okay.
was like looking some up. So I'll tell you mine to start.
Okay.
So the ones that I like, and I don't plan on having children, so I could use one of these if I was, but I won't be. So none of them will be used. I really like Willow, Quinn, August, June, Ivy, Inez, and Esty. Those were the ones that spoke to me off of the top 100 baby names list.
Did you say Nesty at the end?
Esty.
Oh. I was like, Nesty, we're going with that?
She's like, thank God you're not having kids.
For certainly have some opinions at the hospital. If you looked me in my eyeballs and you were like, I love her, I'm gonna name her Nesty, I'd be like, or let's just like pitch some ideas.
As Emily's dialing CPS to get this kid taken away from me on the spot. Basically. She's gonna name it Nesty. We gotta get it away from her.
It's like that person who named their like child after some kind of like number sequence or whatever that was. Do you remember that? Or the kid named Hashtag?
I mean, the number sequence was Elon Musk's child. So.
Is it actually? Of course it is. You know what? I should have known that already, but I didn't.
You should have.
Should have. I just put.
Which ones do you like?
I literally just looked up unique baby girl names because I feel like if we're going to talk about names at all, they should at least be neat sounding ones.
Yeah.
The ones that I like that I probably won't use, hey?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got Amara, Aurelia, Evelyn, Bonnie, Genevieve, and Hazel.
See, I really like the name Willow, but I know too many people who have named their dogs Willow now that I just feel like that would be dead.
That's fair. I feel like my issue is that if you see a name, especially online, that you like, it's probably because it's a trending name or a name that's starting to get more popular. So then you might think it's a nice, unique name and you've never heard it before. But the fact that you're seeing it means that there's
you're about to see it a lot.
Yeah, that you're probably going to see it soon. Like I did see that there was some TikToks I saw like a long time ago now. I say that was probably like 8 months ago. Not that long ago. But it was like people trying to do like a resurgence of like old-fashioned like girl names.
Yeah.
Like a lot of like Margarets or like Audi or Audie. I think that's how you say that. Like stuff like this, which I do really like. Like I do like a lot of those older names. But it would be so hard for me to look at like a baby and be like, hello, Margaret. It's a little weird. I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're gonna find out how funny that really is in like 10 minutes.
Oh, cool. Okay, sounds good. Is this a sign for us to spin for our next question?
No, before we do, tell me, do you have any boy ones that you really like that you probably wouldn't use?
I have to look that up. Okay, hang on. You might as well
boy
tell me
names?
yours.
I'm a lot more picky. Like, there's not a lot of boy names that I like because I just don't like boys in general. Except for my husband, I guess.
Yeah.
But I really like the name Sebastian and Benjamin.
I like Benjamin too, actually. The only downside to that is I do unfortunately know too many Bens in real life. I don't know. I will say though, just on the vein of Benjamin, I do like for boy names, if it has a little bit of like a British tone to it, like it kind of sounds like it could be a little bit British. I do really like those. Like
Henry?
Ones. Yeah, like something like that. I just looked up unique boy names. We have Elias, I don't mind. Funny enough, Sebastian's here. Lil Sebby.
Seb.
Yep. I don't mind Beck.
Beck's fine.
It's fine. Speaking of British, Reggie, short for Reginald, would be hilarious.
Hello, baby Reginald.
Yeah. Oh, God. I don't mind Rowan either. Or, like, Silas. I did not think Anders was a first name, but apparently it is. Oh, it's a Scandinavian version of Andrew. Cool. I don't think I would name a baby that, though. I think that's it for boy names I like, but I'm just going to give some honorable mentions here on the page I'm looking at. We have Guy, which I will never understand people who name their boy children Guy. Is it because it's funny? It's for the bit? You're like, that's just a guy? Like, why?
You're like, yo, dude, that's just a little guy.
He's just a little guy.
Holy shit, his name is Guy.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Or, I've never heard this name, Orson. But I feel like that's another name that could be really easy to pick on. Like, you met a guy named Orson.
That's like an older name, like the famous like actor director Orson Welles from like the.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. Good
you know.
Then Ace, which I guess is a name. It feels
it's
more like
a nickname.
It feels more like an adjective. Yeah, or like a nickname.
Like it's giving Gilmore Girls.
Yes. And like also on this list for my honorable mentions is Casimir. I have never heard of that name in my life. It's spelled Casimir.
It sounds like a name that would be used in like a fantasy smut book.
It does. It is a traditional name of Polish kings. It is also a derivative of some other more popular variations, all such as Caspian, Cassius, and Castiel. You hit that nail on the head, dude.
I'm so smart.
Right? And then we have Gael, which is Gael. And then lastly, Iggy.
That one I don't feel like I've heard for a boy.
It feels like it should be short for something, but I don't think it is. No, actually, I read a book once where the guy's full name was Oswald, and he went by the nickname Iggy. But I feel like...
Weird.
Here's the thing, though. I will say, I have noticed sometimes with people and their nicknames, that sometimes people pick nicknames for themselves that are radically different than the name they actually have.
Like when someone's named Robert, but they call them Dick for some reason.
Yeah, like stuff like that. And it's like
or
supposed to be, yeah. But like at least Robert, like I kind of see that more than I do Dick. But then at the same time, it's like common enough that people go by that nickname where it's like, it doesn't make sense to me, but I guess it's a thing, you know?
Yeah. Just leads back to I will never understand men.
Me either. I'm only assuming that it's men naming other men this too, by the way. I really do not think a woman would pick some of these names. I could be wrong. However, I have my suspicions.
Same. But on that note, let's spin for our next question.
Number 2.
How often do you shop at Walmart?
Nowadays? Never.
Yeah.
For me, for where I live, it's honestly a little too sketchy sometimes to be there. And also, I feel like the prices are pretty much the same anywhere else. Like, unless I really desperately need something and I know for a fact Walmart has it, I do not electively go to Walmart unless I have to.
See, for me and where I live, it's just kind of like out of the way. Like, I feel like there's other stores that carry the same things for similar, if not the exact same price. So I just feel like I never go there. I maybe go there like once a year at like Christmas or something to like look at something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know? But I feel like we used to go there a lot more.
Well, I really do feel like it used to be different, though. Like, I do feel like it used to be a little bit cheaper, a little bit more versatile, where you could find more things there. But, like, nowadays, it's like, I don't know. Like I said, it doesn't feel that different compared to most other places. So I can't really rationalize a reason for me to go out of my way to go to Walmart.
Yeah. And I also think, like, with Amazon, half the time, things are cheaper and more accessible on Amazon than they are on Walmart. And... yeah. Walmart's website, I don't know if you've ever been there.
Unfortunately,
is
yes.
Absolute trash. I don't know what the fuck happened there, but someone's got to do something. They must be stopped.
It is a full-on tragedy. I had to order something online through Walmart because there was some very specific thing at our office, and it was like the right size, shape, whatever, but it could only be bought and shipped by Walmart. And I was trying to find this stupid fucking thing, and it was like, first you find it, but then you can't add it to cart because you need to select your location at the top of the page. So then you select your location at the top of the page, and it refreshes your whole page, and then you have to find the item again. And then when you find the item, it's actually multiple different items because they have a different item per place that you could pick it up from, or you can have it shipped to you.
Some weird marketplace seller?
Yeah, or you can have it shipped to you. But you have to somehow choose and go to every single one of these listings to find the one thing that you actually need to ship it to yourself. And then it'll say it's in stock when it's not. And then I kill myself.
God forbid you accidentally click on Walmart.com instead of .ca.
Oh my God,
you do this whole process like 9 times.
Yeah, because it's just the same thing, just in Canadian dollar. But heaven forbid you try to find the exact same thing because it is not recorded the same anywhere else.
No. Well, on that note, let's spin for the next one. After our little rant.
Us heavily bitter, almost 30-year-olds. Number 4.
Out of all of the people that you know, who would be the worst to have as a roommate?
Of all the people I know, who would be the worst to have as a roommate?
Yeah.
All the people I know. Oh my God, Jen, I know too many people.
Okay, let's narrow it down to like people that like are in your like closer circle, so that you're like actually friends with, or you're related, you know? That you see at least semi-regularly.
Okay, there is one person in particular that I am picturing in my head who has had...
Are you brave enough to say their name on the podcast?
No. I'm not going to say names. But they have had some very one-sided beef with me for like 2 years. I would absolutely never
Male
ever
or
want to
female?
live with them. Female.
Okay.
You know who it is. Because I feel like with people, like the specific personality type, you have to have an ongoing one-sided beef that you never address with somebody, that you don't even see that often. I would not want to be in constant contact with somebody like that. Like, it would genuinely kill me, I think. And then, besides that, I would never want my dad as a roommate. And I feel like... it's just because we are radically very different people. Like, at least with the rest of my family or people that I spend time with, I have enough similarities between everybody. Genuinely, I feel like a lot of the times the only thing that, like, we have in common is, like, the occasional, like, in like, something, like an interest that has to do with, like, nature or something, or, like, research or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that, and the fact that we're related, and that's it. Like, it would be a very quiet, lonely experience. So I'm not really... For me, probably not for him. I think he would appreciate the company. But, like, for me and what I know and need in life, I feel like that would not be the thing for me.
That wouldn't be the first choice.
No, I don't think so. So I would say those are the two if I had to pick, say, between, like, a family member, I guess, or...
a friend.
Somebody who's in my circle otherwise. Because those would be the only 2 groups that are in my circle.
Right. See... For me, I'm also thinking of someone very specific. I feel like most people in my family, although some of them might not be my first choice, I could make it work, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, coworkers and, like, people you work with professionally, there's at least 1 or 2 that I can think of that I'm like, that would actually be my living nightmare if I had to be in that close of proximity with that person for an extended period of time.
Well, and 2, when you're signing up with living with somebody, you're literally signing up to have that person become a part of, like, your inner circle. Whether or not you like them is the thing. So it's like you need to be choosy on whether or not it's somebody who you share interests with, like, enough interests with, or somebody who at least, like, you know, would complement your living style.
Yeah. See, that's the thing also for me is the person that I'm picturing, I feel like we'd have very different living styles. And that person I know would be so nitpicky about the way that I like to live and like not respect boundaries or anything. So I would just be like constantly, like we'd be constantly grinding each other's gears. And that's my nightmare.
Yeah, see, for my two people, the female lady I'm thinking of, I feel like a big part of why I have an issue with the picturing living with them is that I would feel like they would always be trying to get dirt on me somehow.
Like judging you?
Yeah, like, well, I also know how they live, and they're a very dirty person, so I would not want that part either in a place that I would consider my home. But then on top of that, yeah, it's like the difference in personalities and having somebody who feels like they need to, like, what's the word I'm searching for? Like you said, be judgy, or they are constantly looking for reasons to, like, feel like they're better than you in some kind of way. Like, I feel like I wouldn't want to have, like, that kind of weirdly competitive energy or something. Like, I don't even know what you would call that, but it's just, like, a very specific kind of energy where I'm like, I don't want that in my life, let alone my home. And then... And then, yeah, for my example that I gave of, like, my dad, we don't even like the same TV shows. Like, imagine living with somebody where, like, you can't, like, do anything together. You don't like to eat the same kinds of things. You don't even like to, like watch the same movies.
Shows together.
Yeah, read the same books. Like, you don't like to do you don't, like, you have opposite everything pretty much with, like, the exception of, like, one or two things. Like, that would get old really fast.
Yeah, I feel like it would not be the best situation for cohabitating.
No, but that's really all I can think of. As far as coworkers go, at least the ones I work with, we all get along pretty well, thankfully, in that regard, where, would it be ideal? No. Do I also kind of already live with a coworker? Yeah.
Same.
So, I guess.
All right, let's spin for our last question.
Sounds good. Number 3.
Have you ever undergone a medical surgery?
Yeah.
Many.
A few, at least. What did I have? I've had to get stitches a few times. I did have a piece of wood stuck in my eye once.
Ew.
Yeah, I don't know if I told you that one. I think I have. Yeah.
Gross.
Probably. Yeah, I had my tonsils taken out. I had my wisdom teeth taken out. I've been through it a few times. Nothing too crazy, thankfully, but
Yeah, the only ones I've only had a couple. Like I had a surgery with my teeth when I was like really little. And then I broke my nose when I was in like early middle school. And like really since then I have not had anything.
Yeah.
Like I haven't even had my wisdom teeth out.
No, you've been pretty good. When you cuz you went to the dentist to get a cap at some point. I feel like that's the earliest thing you told me about as far as like quote unquote medical stuff.
Yeah. So
pretty low key.
Pretty low key indeed. But that's the end of our questions. So what do you think we're talking about today?
Somebody has a baby. And the baby has a weird name. And this baby, they move out when they're 2 years old and they get a roommate that really sucks. And it's another baby that they know from the day home. And it was baby on baby violence, and they both went to jail because they did not get along with each other.
Holy shit. How did you know exactly what I was going to talk about today?
And the baby's name was Margaret.
The baby's name was Margaret!
Was it actually?
Yes.
Oh, shut up. Oh my god, that's so funny. I had a feeling when I was like talking about Margaret and you got that little glitter in your eyes that you get sometimes. So I was like, oh, there's a baby named Margaret around here.
There is. All right, but we're going to talk about a woman named Dena Leitner, and she was born in 1969 in New York. At the age of 8, Dena was diagnosed with hydrocephalus, which is basically like a buildup of fluid in the cavities deep within your brain. So she had 8 surgeries to implant a thin hollow tube known as a shunt into her brain, heart, and abdomen before she was 13 years old. Which is crazy. Like, that's a lot of medical stuff at such a young age.
And also, hydrocephaly or hydrocephalitis is what my story that I shared with the melon-headed, the melon heads. That was the
melons.
Yeah, that was the theory that they had, that they thought the melon heads might have been. So that's really neat.
Yeah. So she graduated from Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York, with a bachelor's degree in psychology. She met her husband, Jenn Schlosser, when they were both students at Marist. Eventually, they obviously got married and they moved to Plano, Texas. The couple had 2 daughters, one born in 1996 and their second daughter born in 1999. Mm-hmm. Dena gave birth to her 3rd daughter, Margaret, in 2004, who they nicknamed Maggie. And the next day, Dena attempted suicide.
Ooh, okay.
A quick turn.
Yep.
She was hospitalized in a psychiatric ward and was diagnosed with postpartum psychosis, which I'm sure you could have guessed, and bipolar disorder with psychotic features, which basically means that she was experiencing hallucinations, delusions, or both during a manic or depressive episode.
Right.
So this psychotic episode triggered an investigation by the Texas Child Protective Services. CPS ordered that she could not be alone with her children. Her sister-in-law came to live with them until CPS lifted the order. CPS officials said that Dena exhibited symptoms of psychosis, but said she improved with medication and psychiatric help. They closed the investigation in August after deeming that she was stable, which is great. Mm-hmm. So that summer, Dena abandoned Maggie and her 2 other children by running away from the family's apartment. She was found 2 miles away by Plano police and released from the hospital less than 24 hours later. The family went several times a week to Water of Life Church. The pastor of the church was a man named Doyle Davidson, and when he wasn't leading sermons at the church, he was also working as the local veterinarian, which I thought was very weird and interesting, I guess.
I don't think I've heard of that as a
career
pastor's side hustle before.
Yeah.
It's usually
interesting.
It's usually something like a teacher.
Yeah. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Pastor by day, veterinarian by night, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
So, Pastor Doyle would often preach that he believes mental illness is possession by demons and that only God can cure it. And it was around this time that Dena stopped taking her medications and seeing her doctor for her mental health concerns, which is not good, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Yeah, that's like... See, that's the thing. People... Because I get this a lot where people will be taking medications for stuff. Like, I've even done this and they're like, wow, I feel so much better. I don't need to take them anymore. But when it comes to, like, mental health reasons, it's like, well...
Maybe you do.
Maybe some people who have physical ailments, potentially, but perhaps not you unless told otherwise.
I feel like you should never stop taking your medications without consulting a doctor.
100%, yeah.
So, Dena came to believe around this time also that her daughter Margaret was destined to marry Pastor Doyle.
Oh no.
So clearly there was something weird going on here.
Yeah, that's very interesting point A to point B happening.
So on November 21st, 2004, Dena went as far as telling her husband that she wanted to give Margaret to Pastor Doyle, which is a choice. And later that day, according to a confidential CPS report, John then spanked Dena with a wooden spoon in front of their children because I don't think he liked that idea.
Apparently not. Also an interesting escalation of events happening.
Very. So the next day, on November 22nd, 2004, things things in their household started to go very, very wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Dena used a knife to amputate the arms of then 10-month-old Margaret, who died as a result.
Yes.
Her other 2 daughters were not physically harmed in the incident, but obviously police responded to a 911 call made by concerned workers at a local daycare who had spoken to her earlier that day. The operator testified that she confessed to her that the gospel song "He Touched Me" played in the background. When police arrived, they found the dying baby in her crib and Dena in the living room, covered in blood, holding a knife and listening to a church hymn. Dena had reportedly stabbed herself deep in the left shoulder. Hours after her arrest, police heard her repeatedly chanting, "Thank you, Jesus, thank you, Lord," because Dena really believed that God had told her to do this to her daughter.
Okay. I had a suspicion that it was going to come around to tying more into this psychosis situation. I will say it's interesting though that so she does have postpartum psychosis or postpartum of some variety, right?
Yes.
Because usually that and religious psychosis are considered to be like more separate, I guess. I don't usually hear one being the same as the other one. So this is a first for me on hearing a postpartum psychosis also being a religious psychosis.
Yeah, I think that there was a lot happening at once, and I think she was probably struggling from a few different things, and they all kind of unfortunately collided together in the worst possible way.
Right.
So, a private graveside funeral was held on November 29th for Maggie at Water of Life Church, which of course was officiated by Pastor Doyle.
Yes.
And after Dena's arrest, her children were taken by CPS and kept in foster care. CPS said they would only allow her husband to regain custody of them under the condition that his sister lived with the family and he was required to complete psychotherapy and parenting classes. He received full custody of his daughters a year later and raised them as a single father. He subsequently filed for a divorce from Dena. After Maggie's death, Dena told a psychiatrist that she wouldn't be bothered if she were convicted and sentenced to death. In February 2005, a jury deliberated for only a few minutes before deciding that Dena was mentally incompetent to stand trial. A court-appointed psychiatrist had testified that Dena suffered from bipolar disorder and depression and was a severe suicide risk. She was committed to North Texas State Hospital in Vernon, and in May 2005, a judge decided that Dena was competent to stand trial after doctors at the psychiatric hospital determined she was ready. So, on February 6, 2006, Dena's capital murder trial began and she pled not guilty by reason of insanity. During the opening, her attorney said that his client clearly did not know right from wrong during the murder of her daughter Maggie. He said, quote, "This is the real thing. This is somebody who at the time was not capable of knowing what she was doing wrong. She didn't see it coming. Normally, Dena is a sweet woman. She cares. She has compassion." According to the lawyer, William Schultz, Dena had several screaming and growling outbursts before the attack, which he called clear evidence of criminal insanity. Psychologist David Shelf testified that Dena told him about a disturbing news story she had seen. The news story concerned a boy who was mauled by a lion, and she interpreted it as a sign of the coming apocalypse. She said that she heard God commanding her to remove Maggie's arms and then her own, which is the most wild way someone could ever interpret a news story that I've ever heard.
So, just to mentally recap this for myself, she saw a news story about a 10-year-old boy being mauled by a lion, said, "This is a sign from God. He's telling me to cut my 10-week daughter's arms off because that's what he wants?"
Well, the child being mauled was a sign of the apocalypse, clearly. And God just told her to cut off her kid's arms and then hers.
Right. Okay.
Because of the apocalypse, Emily.
Understood. You know what? That's on me for trying to for trying to make some rational connections here. I understand. It is because of the apocalypse. I should have known better. That's true. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Duh. Mm-hmm. So during the trial, much attention was drawn to Dena and her husband attending Water of Life Church. Dena had been taking antipsychotic drugs for several years prior to Maggie's death, and Pastor Doyle thought that mental illness was demonic, and his belief partly led Dena's husband to not buy her medication regularly. Under oath, Pastor Doyle testified that in his view, all mental illness is demonic at bottom. Due to viewer outcry after the trial, Pastor Doyle's television ministry was canceled everywhere outside of the Metroplex. Which maybe it should just be canceled everywhere.
Yeah, I feel
maybe
like
no platform for this man.
Yeah, I feel like if you were going around being like mental illness is not real, it's all demons, that's like, first of all, wrong, but also very dangerous to be saying.
Especially when it results in something like this where people start taking real life action based on what a religious figure is telling them to be truth.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, if you are a pastor or any form of religious figure, like, yeah, the words do hold a little bit more sway than maybe like your average guy.
Just saying.
And with that comes responsibility. Sorry to say.
You would think, but Pastor Doyle does not agree with you.
Well, I didn't think he would.
So, prosecutors said the defense improperly blamed Dena's husband, church and social workers, and others for her actions. While all these entities failing, when Dena walked into the kitchen, bypassed the small knife, and chose the instrument of death, Assistant District Attorney Bill Dobinski said as he displayed the bloody kitchen knife. The attack was later described as religious frenzy. She was found not guilty by reason of insanity, and issuing the verdict, Judge Krish Oldner said Dena had met the legal standard for insanity, but did not elaborate. Both the defense and the prosecution agreed to let the judge decide the case after Dena's first trial ended in deadlocked jury. Dena was committed to North Texas State Hospital and ordered to go there until she was no longer deemed a threat to herself or others. There, Dena was the roommate of someone we've talked about on the show before, Andrea Yates, who was also a Texas woman who had drowned her 5 kids in a bathtub.
Yeah, I remember that one.
So on November 6th, 2008, it was announced that Dena would shortly be released into outpatient care. The order required her to see a psychiatrist once a week, take medication, be on a physician-approved birth control, and not have any unsupervised contact with children. In April 2010, it was reported that Dena was recommitted after firefighters from Richardson saw her walking down the street at 2 a.m. Her attorney, David Haynes, said that he felt the judge made the correct decision, which I feel like says a lot when your attorney is saying something like that.
Yeah, I feel like I know that it's already been mentioned that she has a diagnosis of bipolar and she was most likely going through postpartum-ish, whether that be depression, psychosis, etc. I do feel like there is something extra happening in the mental health department if people who work closely with you, like your attorney, are thinking that you need to be locked up when you're found walking alone at nighttime.
Yeah. It seems like maybe there was something else going on there.
Yeah.
So in 2011, she was again released on outpatient status, and in late June 2012, the public caught wind that Dena was hired by Walmart as a store associate, and some area residents expressed concerns. For her to be in the hospital for such a short time and then have the freedom that you and I enjoy after what she did, I think it's a shame. There should be an outcry from the public, said Natalie Glenmo-Garabi, a resident in the town, and others expressed disappointment in Walmart for hiring someone who had committed such an act. quote, I think they would have delved further into it or something wasn't disclosed. Maybe Walmart just doesn't know, said resident Rebecca Rodden. And because of the public outcry, Dena was allegedly fired like literally within hours from her job.
Right.
And as of December 2020, she was ordered to remain committed to a state hospital. So that's my tale for you today.
Okay, so I'm just going to add this since you included it right at the end. I have very conflicted feelings about people who were in her situation and also having a job. Because on one hand, I do feel like that should be something that people are allowed to have as a job, but at the same time, I feel like working a job that puts you directly in the public when these are the types of issues that you are dealing with and you have a history of violence towards minors is like not the thing. Like, you know, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like you shouldn't be able to get a job, especially after having been in the hospital and prison and all these other things. Like, I still feel like that people should be able to have jobs. But that's also a hard thing to say, like, oh, you can't even... I don't even know. Like, what... Like, I'm having such a hard time communicating my thoughts right now. Because...
I totally understand what you mean. I think that it's hard because putting her in such a public-facing role is just an episode or, like, a recipe for getting public outcry like this. Because there's just... a lot of people who don't understand mental health, they've never dealt with it themselves, so they're not quite as sympathetic as you might hope they would be. And also, you know, she did commit a horrific crime by cutting off her child's arms and letting it bleed to death. So she's not blameless in the situation. So I think it's hard to put her in such a public-facing role. I think that obviously... if they deemed her fit for this outpatient program, she should be able to have a job. I just think maybe they could have put her in a position where she didn't need to be, like, ringing people up at the till, you know?
Yeah, and even as, like, a store associate, that's exactly what I meant, thank you, is if she's well enough to be a part of an outpatient program, like, I don't feel like people need to be judged by their history, especially if they've progressed to a point having a criminal history and having a history of mental illness where you are... now trying to kind of reintegrate, right? Like you're working on this. And I feel like that's what I mean. Like it shouldn't be that people aren't allowed to have jobs, but I do feel like it needs to be maybe a little bit more mindful or a little bit more selective where it's like, okay, so having this be the history, maybe, you know, as a part of this program, certain things are maybe just like not on the table for types of work allowed. Like a sales associate, like you said, is a very front-facing role. That is a role that is directly with the public versus, like, a stalker. Like, somebody who works in the back with just, like, other employees that are all adult human beings, you know? Like, it's very different.
It's tricky because I think clearly she's in a smaller community in Texas that clearly has a pastor, so you can imagine the community that is fostered by who doesn't believe in mental illness.
Right.
Okay. Texas is a very Republican place to begin with. I'm sure we can all imagine how this is going to go for her, and it's not well. Yeah. So I think maybe it's just like being mindful of where she is. It's a small place. People are probably going to recognize her. Maybe a public job is not it for her and not best for, and probably not very good for her mental health and recovery either.
Well, that's the thing too. Like
that judgment.
Exactly. If you're in an outpatient program, like I imagine it's because you want to move on to the next part of your life where this isn't the shit that you're dealing with. And then to work in a job where people are looking at you and all they can think about is, you know, what you did at one of your arguably lowest moments in your life, which is also horrific, and you're probably already thinking about every single day, right? Like, I don't think that's very, like, it's not very forward thinking. It doesn't seem to be putting anybody in a good situation. I don't even see how, like, but, like, it could even be said maybe Walmart just didn't really know, I guess. Like, maybe that's, like, a part of, like, non-disclosure with this program or something. It's hard. That's a hard thing, too. Like, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, so, like, the Walmart stuff, it was covered by this, like, local news station or whatever, and I guess, like, a Walmart, like, someone from Walmart responded and was like, we do a criminal record check, but we don't, like, it's not disclosed what they've done and like blah, 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 right? Obviously, they didn't know what she had done specifically, and she was working under her maiden name, not her married name, which the married name is what would have been associated with all this, right?
Right.
So they didn't know exactly. They obviously probably knew she had some criminal past, but they didn't know what that was and the extent of it until someone recognized her. And then she was fired.
Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate. These ones are always hard when it's crimes against children and also mental health crimes, but they're good conversations to have.
Yeah. But that's all for our story today.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing as always. And if you like today's episode, you can leave us a review on wherever you listen to our podcast. 5 stars is always appreciated. Besides that, we have our website, which is www.wheelofcrime.com if you want to check us out on there. We also have our Patreon if you would like to donate to the show, which is at Wheel of Crime on Patreon. We have our email, which is wheelofcrime@gmail.com if you'd like to send us a message. And we have our social media, which is on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Wheel of Crime. And lastly, we do also have our listener story forum open. If you say, worked at Walmart and there was some freaky shit happening at Walmart, because I can only imagine. Please write into the show and let us know, because that's always interesting for us to hear. I personally have not had the experience of working at a Walmart, just shopping at a Walmart, and I have seen enough in those few times that I've been there. So if you'd like to write in, though, feel free to access our listener form on, like I said, any of our social media, or at least most of our social media, and get a feature on our next listener episode.
Yes, that's it. That's all. And we'll see you next week for another new episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.